From the most infamous shark attack in the history of the United States to a tragic and devastating incident while snorkeling, here are 10 of the angriest sharks that appeared out of nowhere. Number 10. Snorkeling mother attacked. How can you stop an angry shark when it's on a steadfast rampage? Yeah, I have no idea either. Take for example the horrific story from 1985 when a mother was literally ripped apart by a giant great white shark that swam up out of nowhere. This was an extremely tragic incident for the family, seeing as Shirley Durdin was only 33 years old when she was consumed by a 20-foot monster shark in front of her terrified and screaming loved ones. This gruesome incident is still one of the most infamous shark attacks in the history of Australia, simply for how unrelenting and unmerciful the shark was in its assault. And if you don't like gore, you should definitely skip ahead to the next story. Because what the shark did to this woman was atrocious. She literally had her head torn from her body while diving for scallops off the coast of southern Australia. Her family sat and watched from the shore as the giant shark bit her head completely off her body. Just imagine the horror felt by her husband and children in those moments, having to watch something so brutal. Apparently, Shirley had been the first person in a decade to be killed by a great white shark in the south of Australia. But of course, Shirley will surely not be the last. Number 9. 12 deaths in 4 days. Not all shark attacks happen down under in Australia. One of the most brutal incidences of an enraged shark going on a vicious destruction spree happened in 1916 along the New Jersey coastline. This was what inspired a mass fear and paranoia of sharks in the United States today. Over the course of just 4 days, a single shark went out of its way to sneak up on unsuspecting swimmers and attack them. What makes this such an interesting story is that before 1916, most scientists didn't think sharks were a threat to humans. They just thought they were big, stupid fish. Rolling my eyes. The first doomed swimmer to be killed by the shark in 1916 was a man named Charles Van Sant. He had arrived at Beach Haven on July the 1st with the thought that he would have a fun-filled day of innocent swimming and relaxing in the hot sun. Unfortunately, a demented shark came out of literally nowhere and ripped him apart. After his death, 3 more followed, some of them as much as 45 miles away from each other. The final attack came on July the 12th when a single shark murdered 2 children off a small town of Matawan, 11 miles from the beach, which is really weird as sharks don't usually venture that far inland. In this case, the assailant was eventually caught by fishermen, and it turned out to be a pretty small great white considering it was a mass murderer. It was only 7.5 feet long and 350 pounds. Still, it became a legend that would eventually spawn the book Jaws, and later the movie. Hey, real quick, if you're new to the channel, welcome! Give this video a like and hit that subscribe button for more videos like these. Number 8. Unexpected death. It's true that you never really see a shark coming, and if you do, chances are it's already too late. While diving off the coast of Mendocino, a man named Cliff Zimmerman could only watch in horror as his old friend and diving partner was ravaged by a shark. A shark that literally came out of nowhere. It swam up as fast as an underwater bullet and ripped his friend into pieces. According to Zimmerman himself, he heard a whoosh noise like a submarine, saw the shark brush past him, and before he knew what was happening, the water was filled with blood. Zimmerman claims that the incident was over in mere seconds and nobody saw the shark again. The shark came in for the kill, it made the kill, and it vanished back into the great below. A real dine and dash fiasco. This is truly an apex predator in its prime, hunting whatever it feels like in its own domain. The poor human never stood a chance. Number 7. Swan River Shark Attack. The last place you expect an angry shark to turn up is a river. Shark attacks are something that generally happen out at sea. But of course, Australia is a crazy place. Just recently, a man got into quite a bit of trouble in Swan River when an angry bull shark came out of nowhere and decided to give him a taste. This shocked the entire community because it had been 50 years since the last shark attack in any river system near the city of Perth. Apparently, bull sharks are actually in many of the waterways of Australia, but they aren't that aggressive. The man who was just bitten and suffered critical injuries from the shark's teeth must have done something to really aggravate the creature. Either that, or it was simply in a bad mood and decided to take it out on the silly human. According to the news report from ABC, there are dozens of sharks in almost every major river in Australia, but most of them hang out in the upper areas of the rivers eating crabs and other sea creatures. It's very rare for a bull shark to become aggressive and attack a person. In this guy's case, he luckily survived the incident and was released from the hospital. Number 6. Mauled by an angry shark. Not everyone gets to go surfing and do a meet and greet with a great white shark. It is a rare experience that either ends with an overwhelming respect of the animal or a short trip to the morgue. A surfer who was recently attacked in the waters near Kangaroo Island narrowly escaped his own trip to the morgue and has definitely been humbled by the experience. It all happened during a seemingly normal day of surfing. According to him, the attack felt like getting hit by a literal truck. The shark came out of nowhere. The guy was sitting on his surfboard, felt something on his leg, and suddenly he was in the powerful jaws of the beast. The shark bit him on his back, on his elbow, and on his buttocks. He got only the briefest glimpse of the heinous predator before it let him go and disappeared back into the depths of the ocean below. The shark apparently didn't want to eat him, it just wanted to sample his meat and show him who was boss. The surfer sustained serious injuries all over his body, yet somehow managed to swim 984 feet back to the shore. Even after such a horrifying experience, the surfer was feeling lucky and grateful, which is definitely the best way to look at this kind of incident. Number 5. Death from below. When it comes to the fury of an angry shark, a young girl named Kayla Marlowe learned the hard way of just how devastating these impressive animals can be. The girl had been visiting the popular Waihi Beach in New Zealand when she was attacked and killed by a shark with a really bad attitude. According to the local New Zealand police, the area where the attack occurred was blocked off for at least 7 long days while an investigation was launched. As for the poor girl, nobody saw exactly what happened, but she was taken from the water with serious leg wounds, and despite attempts at resuscitation, she was pronounced dead at the scene. The family is obviously devastated, and so is the community. This was the first fatal shark attack in 8 years in the country of New Zealand, and nobody knows why it happened. The shark clearly came out of nowhere, and it was apparently pretty angry. The saddest part is that nobody will ever know the reason for this girl's untimely death. Number 4. The USS Indianapolis. Believe it or not, the worst shark attack in history happened on July 29, 1945, after a United States naval ship was taken down by a Japanese sub. But the ship sinking was only the first part of the nightmare. After the USS Indianapolis was sunk, 900 out of the 1,196 men aboard made it into the water still alive and just floating there waiting to be rescued. But as the sun came up on July 30th, all hell broke loose. It appeared that curious sharks had been drawn by the noise from the explosion. Plus, the water was already full of blood. Now there were 900 men unprotected in the middle of the ocean waiting to be saved, and the hungry sharks used this to their advantage. First, the sharks began feeding on people who were already dead. But more and more sharks kept coming, and the food began to run out. As the days went by, many of the survivors died from heat, thirst, and many people even suffered from hallucinations and drank seawater only to die from salt poisoning. Their corpses were eaten by the sharks. But some survivors were also consumed. According to a historical report from Smithsonian Magazine, it has been estimated that at least 150 people died from being picked off by the ravenous sharks. When rescue finally showed up days later, only 317 lucky survivors remained. Number 3. The Flying Great White Shark. If you thought sharks were scary in the water, just wait until you hear this next story. A great white shark was recently caught on video jumping out of the water, flying through the air, and ripping apart a helpless seal. The clip was filmed for a National Geographic show being put on Disney+, but nobody could have expected this to happen. The merciless shark shot out of the depths with its toothy jaw open, then arced through the air while crunching down on the poor little seal. Who would have thought the great white sharks were powerful enough that they could hop out of the ocean and soar through the air before crashing back into the water? Apparently, nowhere is really safe from one of these unexpected attacks, especially if you're a seal. Number 2. Shark versus kangaroo. But seals aren't the only animals that need to watch out for sharks. A kangaroo recently became the target for an angry shark after it decided to take a little swim in southern Australia. An eyewitness saw the entire thing while walking his dogs on the beach. The kangaroo must have been sick or in danger, as that's the only reason they ever go out into the sea. But in this case, it was a hugely devastating mistake for the marsupial. The eyewitness told Australia's ABC News that the kangaroo headed out into the water, and before it knew what was happening, a furious shark came out of nowhere and tore it apart. The eyewitness waited around for a little while longer to see what would happen, but the shark apparently swam off back into the ocean. Later on, the man's story was confirmed by an official who discovered the carcass of the very kangaroo mangled on the beach. The moral of the story here is that great white sharks are not in the least bit picky about who they take their anger out on. Number 1. Hammerhead Sharks. We've talked a lot today about great white sharks, but the truth is that hammerhead sharks can be equally as terrifying. They're certainly not as dangerous, but they are definitely still great at freaking people out. This is especially true when they're angry and come out of nowhere. In a recent video shared by Fox News, you could see a deadly hammerhead shark swimming dangerously close to a completely oblivious swimmer. The video was taken from a drone off the coast of Miami Beach, and it is one of the most heart-stopping encounters that a person can have, especially when they don't know it's happening. Of course, nobody knows if this hammerhead shark was angry or not. It didn't end up eating the guy, even though he had his legs dangling in front like juicy meat treats. Plus, hammerhead sharks don't usually attack humans. In this case, the guy got away lucky. Thanks for watching. How do you feel about swimming with sharks? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to come back soon for another amazing animal video, and don't forget to subscribe. If you had to pick, would you rather swim in an aquarium with a juvenile great white or with a full-grown bull shark?